Hello and a very warm welcome to another edition of Channels Beam. I'm Victor Matthias. Nigeria's tech ecosystem has over the years grown to see entrepreneurs, founding companies and enthusiasts leaving their regular white-collar jobs to begin their new careers in tech, making global impact and building what the tech ecosystem refers to as unicorns, that is, companies valued at over $1 billion. However, the ecosystem has in the past few years witnessed a mass exodus of talent and founders who have found meccas in other African countries, Europe, and the Americas. This edition of the program will look at the transformation journey of Nigeria's tech ecosystem, the support for entrepreneurs, as well as the need for cyber security. We're now being joined by Victor Ekwalo. He is a consultant in Africa's tech ecosystem. We also have joining us Ife Adebayo. He is the SA to the VP on innovation, as well as Mohammed Jega. He is the founder of Startup Arewa. It's a pleasure to have all of you join us on the program today.
Thank you. It's good to have you.
Of course. Let's now kickstart the conversation.
There's been the good times and there's been bad times because things have been happening and it's a learning curve for everybody. But one of the interesting things that's coming now for the startup ecosystem in Nigeria is the Nigerian Startup Bill, because let's just more or less like coming to build the Nigerian startups can help them define their bearing, because there has been a lot of challenges in startups trying to get a grip of where they should be able to position themselves, lack of support structure, so much gaps in the ecosystem, lack of enabling environment, different taxation, different policies hitting startups left, right, and center. I've been in an ecosystem for almost 2 decades, and I understand the kind of heat startups feel in the Nigerian tech ecosystem. But I believe this has come to rescue and also to salvage the entire ecosystem by bringing and redefining an environment that is going to be all-inclusive and also help in terms of for investment opportunities for startups to help them get a sense of belonging. Because so many investors are coming in, the startups are the ones giving the investors confidence to come into the space. But the environment itself, the Nigerian tech space itself, is not really giving investors kind of comfortable seats for them to be able to have and also explore other opportunities. But I believe this is very timely, and this is the best thing that's happened to the Nigerian tech ecosystem.
All right, I'll come to the Nigerian startup bill in a bit, but you talked about good and bad times. So as it is, what are those bad times? Of course, you made mention of double taxation, the ease of doing business, the convenience of doing business, and all of that. What is the situation in that regard?
The situation is very worrisome. I need to be very frank with you, because it's hitting me also as a startup founder and also an ecosystem player, because I understand I've been to every nooks and crannies of this country. I've connected with a lot of entrepreneurs. I've heard their complaints, and it's the same story everywhere you go. And also lack of real support structure in terms of even the kind of bids and contracts that are going there. A startup cannot apply for any contract and get it, because you need to bring in almost 15 documents, tech fund, ITF, and all those things. They are not really supported. And we all talk about supporting local startups. Where is the support coming from? It's a major gap. Secondly, those who are playing in the space, the fintech, get a lot of knocks from CBN. Sex come with its own, need that from the other angle, IT from another. So there's so much really not giving startups and entrepreneurs confidence to live and work in the country and also do what they're supposed to do, because businesses is really getting tough on them. Some of them are not really making profits.
Okay, it's good that you made mention of all of this potpourri of problems. Thankfully, Ife Adebayo is here. Perhaps you can give us some answers to some of those issues or the questions that you have raised. Ife Adebayo, again, it's a pleasure to have you on the program. So quickly tell us, what is the situation? Why are we having, according to Mohammed Jega, why are we having these bottlenecks? And if they don't exist, what is the situation that we have at the moment?
Thank you very much, Victor, for having me. And like Mohammed Jega has mentioned, there are indeed bottlenecks, and these are conversations that are currently ongoing within government. And I think over the years, when you look at where we were before and where we've been able to get to now, you find out that there's been a lot of improvements. For example, when you look at the issue with fintechs, a lot of the new CBN licenses that now enables fintechs to be able to operate have been a result of engagement with the ecosystem. So I think on the side of government, what we need to do a lot more is engage more with the ecosystem. And I think it's important also for the ecosystem to meet us halfway. And Mohamed Jagga had earlier mentioned the Nigeria Startup Bill. I think that is the perfect example of the kind of collaboration that needs to happen between government and the private sector. So what you have on the Startup Bill is what we call the big tent approach, where within this big tent, we have both the private sector, government, and even development partners working together to come up with a bill that serves as a cushion and that also serves as a protector for the ecosystem.
Yeah, so speaking of the startup bill, how soon will this be ready? I mean, we understand it's in phases. We see, I have seen quite a number of stakeholder rallies, going on across the country. But at what point should, because businesses are pretty much suffering from all of these bottlenecks. Tech startups are suffering from all of these bottlenecks. So at what point, is there a time frame, so to speak now, that this bill will be, before the president for assent?
I wouldn't want you to quote me, but we're working to do this as quickly as possible. So there's a very long process that is involved. And I think when you look at the speed at which the startup bill has been able to move so far, you'll find out this has been unprecedented. Currently, the bill is at the Ministry of Justice, and should be moving from the Ministry of Justice back to the Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy before the end of this week. We've had the big support of the Honorable Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Dr. Issa Ali Pantami, in the drafting of this bill and in the pushing of this bill to move really quick. And I know that he has had conversations personally with the Minister of Justice also on the bill. The Vice President has also been speaking about the bill and has also shown a very, very keen interest in ensuring that we're able to move the bill on quickly. So when you look at the kind of support that we're getting, even from the National Assembly, I know Mohamed Jagga, for example, has led a lot of the engagements with a lot of the members of the National Assembly on the proposed bill. So when you look at the coordination and the support that this is getting from the highest levels of government, from the honorable ministers themselves, and from the ecosystem, and even from the National Assembly, I can assure you that we expect to have this bill signed very soon.
Well, very soon is pretty much a very relative. But I mean, let me just be positive, just like every other tech startup CEO out there. But I'll come back to you again in just a bit. Let me quickly hear from Victor, who is joining us also via Zoom from Lagos. Victor, you are the consultant, you are the analyst. I mean, of recent, it seems to be like there is this trend of young tech startups leaving the country. Of course, that's as a result of the bottlenecks, that has been mentioned earlier on by Mohamed Jagga and also agreed to by Ife. But in your own perception, what would you say is the main reason behind the leaving of tech startups in Nigeria, to even African countries to go and start their businesses?
Thank you, Victor. So over the years, to a very large extent, the ease of doing business in Nigeria hasn't been very great, right? There are a lot of this, initiatives that are talked about, but when you look at the situation on ground, it's still not very reflective. Things are a little bit very tight for entrepreneurs, startup entrepreneurs, from a regulatory perspective at this point. And for most of them, they're thinking about divestments, like divesting out of Nigeria. A lot of them are still building for Nigeria to a very large extent, but it's like, how do they say it? Like hedging your risk, kind of. And it is great that, all these initiatives are going. But the truth is, at the end of the day, a lot of people have stakeholders, they have investors, and they ask them like, okay, it's one thing to be positive. It's great to be positive. I'm staying positive that things are going to be great. But the truth is the situation on ground, data suggests that the best bet for a lot of those people is, hedging their risks, divesting out, looking at branching and building out in other countries, Africa and outside Africa. So that's, straightforwardly what's been happening so far.
Yeah, so when you say that they're building for Nigeria, I mean I get a little bit worried because I looked at the headlines not too long ago and I saw a Nigerian company, or a company owned by a Nigerian and run by Nigerians, even though they say they have their headquarters, in quite a number of countries. But the headline that came, said a Rwandan startup is the first to, so and so. So when I looked at the profile of that company, I saw that I found out that it's a Nigerian owned company, but operating from Rwanda. So when you say they're building for Nigeria, I'm getting a little bit, kind of maybe let me just say, moved off balance. How do you reconcile that?
No, that's the problem with things like this. Like it's the narrative issue, right? There is a case of a very popular startup that has received investment from around the world, and it's become really big over the years. And there has been this contention of if the startup is American or Nigerian. I really don't want to mention the name now, but with things like this, we can have it all basically. These startups go outside Nigeria, and to a very large extent, the story changes, the narrative changes. It's like public relations. Now, Rwanda, to a very large extent, has one of the greatest ease of doing business factors in Africa, and you don't, to a very large extent, from a selfish perspective for them, you don't expect them to make it easy for these businesses to come and thrive in the environment and not take some sort of, some sort of glory for that.
Some credit.
So like, yeah, some credit to a very large extent. So these narratives are one of the biggest problems of, these divestments that happen, because they leave Nigeria, they register in another part of the continent or the world. And over the years, you begin to, have the question of, oh, is this company Nigerian? Is this company built for Nigeria or for Africa? And that whole modeling happens, yeah? So like something has to give, I'm not surprised at all. Something has to give.
Well, indeed. Let me come back to Ife. Ife, what's your take on this? I mean, the fact that tech startups are now beginning to leave the country, go somewhere else, build their startups, generate income, pay taxes, to these countries where they are operating from. Revenue that ordinarily should have been generated, to the Nigerian government's coffers. What's your take on that, and what do you feel about that?
I look at this in two ways. First, I'll look at it as a recognition of talent, a recognition of capacity, a recognition of the ability of Nigerian startups, and also look at it as sort of an expansion of what the startups are doing. That's one way. However, in the second way also, I'll look at it that it just shows that there's still a lot more that needs to be done in Nigeria. These are some of the issues that we hope the Startup Act will be able to deal with. There are certain regulations of the SEC. There are certain regulations that's of the Securities and Exchange Commission of the SEC. There are certain regulations of the Nigerian Stock Exchange that need to be relaxed to be able to allow for to encourage some of these investments to remain in country. So are there issues that need to be looked at? Definitely. But are these totally negative? Are they zero-sum negative? I would say no.
All right. So just hold your thoughts for a bit. But again, I'll come back to you. Let me quickly also get Jega's perspective on the issue of funding. I mean, Jega, when you look at the whole ecosystem now, funds mostly come from investors abroad. What are investors? I know there are a lot of people in Nigeria that believe in the ability of the young people in Nigeria. So when are we going to start seeing investments coming, from within Nigeria?
I think more that needs to be done is around sensitization, because a lot of we've seen things happening now, changing, because more Nigerians are engaged in the tech space. Some of them are more tilted around brick and mortar businesses. Some are into real estate and what have you. They don't really understand tech, but a percentage of them that understand technology and the value of investing in businesses and tech businesses, because some leaders in the space are mostly bank MDs and those who are working investment companies and blue chip companies. They are the ones leading that space. And it's important for us to do more of engagement and sensitization. And the likes of what the Abuja Angel Network is doing, the Lagos Angel Network is doing. We need to have more of that in terms of bringing together stakeholders to educate them and sensitize them about investing in your own solution. Yes, there's a lot happening, but I feel it's a one step to the other. And there's a lot of traction now with the kind of news coming into the country. They picked more interest in understanding, yeah, normal businesses startup businesses evolve more because they don't have a legacy issue and they disrupt the space and they move faster. And in terms of that, and I believe that is a win-win for both angles. But I'm for the support of acting local but thinking global in terms of for the startup ecosystem.
Well, I kind of like I kind of like your closing statement, but when you're looking at that, I'll come back to you in a bit. Well, in a bit, we'll take a quick break, and we'll be back shortly. Please stay with us. All right, thank you for staying with us. And of course, we still have with us our panelists joining us from London, from Abuja, as well as from Lagos. We're looking at the tech ecosystem in Nigeria and how it has developed over the years. So, Jega, let me again come back to you now, talking about thinking, thinking local and acting global.
Act local but thinking global.
Oh, exactly. Okay, let me come again. Talking about acting global but acting local but thinking. Wait, I'm mixing those two things.
Act
Come again.
local but thinking global.
Okay, all right, too. All right, let me just come to you now, Jega, talking about, acting local and thinking global. With everything that we have around us, as we wind down, so this would be pretty much very quick. How, especially now for those who are trying to come into the space, what would you say would be the best bet for them to follow this line?
Most importantly is for them to be able to connect with an ecosystem and also understand the demographic and what is in there for them, because a lot of them have a disconnect. They don't know. They only take information from what they see online. So that's why we try as much as possible to see how we can be able to make sure that there's activities happening in different angles of the country, which will be able to help build that community, build the confidence, and also startups and tech enthusiasts can go there, connect with mentors, ask questions, and also see how they can be able to leverage on fine-tuning their businesses and also preparing them for that global stage. Startup business is not a joke. It's a real serious stages that you need to go in life. It's a school on its own that every tech entrepreneur or startup founder need to be schooled on that part. So now we've seen influx of a lot of accelerator programs coming to the country. Why are they coming to the country? Because Nigeria is an emerging market. Our numbers is our selling point. We have some disruptive innovations in this country that even those who are internally there, they can't even imagine where they're coming from, because there's talents breeding and popping up from every nooks and cranny of the country. What we need to do is to harness them more. I'm happy with what the Vice President started doing with the Advisory Council, bringing stakeholders together to be able to discuss on how we can be able to create a support structure around every startup in every nooks and cranny in this country. That such projects need to continue, because we need to see how best we can be able to keep the engagement closer, just like what Ife said, and bring governments, investors, and the ecosystem players together, and as well as the media, so that they can help us talk about what we're doing, because we need the media to sell our products, because lack of branding has really affected some of those startups. Most of the startups that you see them escalating, they've featured in one international accelerator program, the likes of FI, Startup Wise Guys, and Web Summit and Co. But we need to do more internally. We need to do more internally by localizing and domesticating most of those solutions and giving them a sense of belonging, a springboard for them to be able to take there, so that we can export talents and also export businesses out of the country.
I cannot but agree with you on all of the things that you said. But again, I just have to say thank you for joining us today on the program. While you're still there, as we go off, let me quickly come to you. Most of the things that Jega talked about, pretty much, the incoming or the inflow of all of this accelerator programs from abroad. Internally in Nigeria, I know the federal government has invested in technology hubs in all of the geopolitical zones of the country. What is going on? What is happening in these hubs? How much has been done in terms of, investments, in terms of mentoring, in terms of, exporting talent as well as business? Ife.
Thank you very much. So one of the things that we did one of the things that we ensured that we did was to work with the ecosystem. So there's nothing that has been done that has been driven by government. We've ensured that we've engaged the ecosystem and worked with the ecosystem. So when you look at hubs like the Genesis Hub in Enugu, you look at hubs like the Ventures Platform in Abuja, you look at the Nigeria Climate Innovation Center in Lagos, the Northeast Humanitarian Innovation Hub in Yola. These are all hubs that the federal government has worked with and supported over time. But one of the key things I think is also important is the localization. And I think Jagad mentioned this. We also need to encourage the local and the state governments to engage a bit more also. That's why as part of the Nigeria Startup Bill, we're already engaging with states to ensure that there are local versions of each of those bills. Then when you also look at the investments from people like the Lagos Angel Networks, the Abuja Angel Network, the African Business Angel Network, these are all things that are being done to spur and encourage encourage average Nigerians to get involved in this ecosystem and support what is being done in the ecosystem.
All right, let's hope that all of this will yield positive results in the very nearest future, but also thanks as well to you, for joining us on the program. Victor, just in rounding up the conversation for us, in your own now, again, as an analyst and a consultant, what do you think would be the best approach, moving forward, looking at the fact that there are more people who are out there but are willing to get on board, but of course there is one hindrance, somewhere stopping them. So what would be your advice to people like that coming on board?
This is a multifaceted conversation, and that will require a multifaceted solution. And I can't deny the fact that there has been a lot of government efforts to galvanize everything that's happening here. But to a large extent, I also know that when we speak about things like localization, it is easier said than done, because like I mentioned earlier, like the situation on ground is totally different, So when we're asking, okay, I'm going to speak to one of the things that was talked about earlier, and which is, getting investors and investment from the local level. And most of this is that like there is not enough, positive data to support this participation right now as is. I'm actually very hopeful that things change and become, a lot more better than it is in the near future. But truth is, it's not still there yet, to be very honest. And that's the reason why a lot of these startups are looking for, greener pastures or better environments. There are a lot of solutions. Like Jagad rightly said, Nigeria is a very big frontier. Africa is a very big frontier. And there is a lot of people to build for, there are problems to solve and everything, which makes it very attractive for tech and innovative solutions. But things need to be better managed and put in place in terms of like policies, structures and all that kind of stuff. So yes, while like I said, I see and appreciate the effort, I think there's more that needs to be done before we start talking about localization and making a lot of things home-based.
All right. Let's just hope that all of that will be done. Like you said, more needs to be done. So hopefully we outline all of those things that you think needs to be done, and put it before those who are the helms of affairs to ensure that it is carried out and carried out holistically. But I have to say thank you to you as well. And again, thank you to Ife Adebayo, the SA to the VP on Innovation and Entrepreneurship. Thank you to Mohammed Jiga, he's the founder of Arewa Tech, as well as you, Victor. You are a consultant in Nigeria and even Africa's tech ecosystem. Well, that's where we are on this. We'll now take a look at the movie videos on our YouTube channel in the past week. Please stay with us.
In fifth place, to kick off this week's most viewed videos, is the arrest of an AK-49 wielding fake soldier and 60 other criminal suspects in Nasarawa.
1 Timothy Emmanuel, aim of Baking Chiyawa Village, Kampam, Local Government Authority of Plateau State, was intercepted along BAD Road, Lafia. wearing military camouflage, in possession of AK-47 rifle with 2 magazines.
Fourth sees security operatives repelling an attack in Anambra.
The shooting continues with the force showing enormous gallantry.
You're getting as leaders in the southeast when you have your...
It is followed by assessment of the gubernatorial poll amidst the sit-at-home threat in Anambra State.
Some people also feel that if they threaten everybody and there's no elections, then they can score some political points.
If not for the timely intervention by security agencies, they would have killed a lot of people there.
And I spotted her and asked her why.
Second spot is occupied by the video of a mother asking authorities to rescue her daughter from the rubble of the collapsed Ikoyi building.
Ọmọ mi Zainab Oyindamola Sanni ó wà nínú building tó collapse n'Ikoyi láti ọ̀sán àná. Till now, wọn ò tíì rí yọ.
While the shock and panic that gripped Nigerians as a 21-story building collapsed tops the chart in first place.
And that's the program this week. Thank you for watching. I'm Victor Matthias. Bye.